Friends, I hope everybody can hear me well. Thank you very much for joining me in this CEO panel discussion, and thank you. And we regret any inconvenience caused to you because of connections. I would like to welcome all my guests today with me here, starting with Mr. Khalid Al Hamad, the Executive Director of the Supervision Central Bank of Bahrain, Mr. Abdulhakeem Al-Khayyat, the Chief Executive Officer of Kuwait Finance House, Mr. Abdulwahid Janahi, the Chief Executive Officer of Benefit Company, Mr. Ahmed Seyadi, the Chief Executive Officer of Credimax, and Mr. Chandrasekhar, the CEO of Arab Financial Services. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much and welcome to this session. We have 1 hour for this session, 1 hour, 10 minutes maybe, so we'll try to stick to the time as much as we can. If I may address my first question to Mr. Khalid Hamad. Mohammed, with digital challenger banks becoming more popular, there has been more noise around the bank of the future. How are challenger banks creating SME-centric digital solutions so rapidly with regulatory incentives for change in place? And what is their biggest advantage in your opinion? I cannot hear Mr. Hamad.
Dictate that SMEs finance must be the focal point in order to achieve good economic growth and sustainability for many reasons. But let's stop here in terms of the economic perspective. Now, I totally disagree first with combining the small enterprises with medium-sized enterprises, because the two, and they have different characteristics and different mindsets. So it would be wrong to say, to group them under one segment. The recent digital development and transformation have been targeting consumers only, and we have not witnessed any real case solutions yet for small and medium-sized enterprises. We have introduced crowdfunding regulations to suit the needs of small companies and startups, but no uptake yet. We have also encouraged the retail banks to lend to SMEs through reducing risk weights on SMEs for capital adequacy purposes, but again, we have not witnessed improvement. Small-sized enterprises as a segment have not been well understood, a matter that led to considering them as high-risk segments that require extra effort by lending institutions. This led to the intervention of governments to stimulate interest through certain risk mitigation tools, and we have witnessed that without credible government support, any possible financing arrangement by existing financiers, whether by digital or traditional banks, would continue to be at a very high cost to small enterprises and startups. Recent successful liquidity fund of BD 200 million launched by the Ministry of Finance and National Economy prove my perspective. So in order to effectively and efficiently serve small-sized enterprises and startups, the solution should be of threefold: introducing digital processing, availability of short-term equity participation partners, along with governmental support. I hope I was able to answer your questions.
Although I was not able to hear all of your answer, but I think the part that I have heard will address the question that I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamad. If I now move to our next guest, Mr. Abdulhakeem Al-Khayyat. Muhammad, what is your opinion on the role of NEO banks now and in the future with the wider banking ecosystem?
See, Probably tackling this question from a wider perspective. I think the entire ecosystem has not come into play yet. Some banks have taken advantage of the ecosystem that exists, some others have not. And this is true about many financial institutions throughout the globe. There isn't yet this ecosystem is moving very fast, and people, where they start a project, a job, probably before finishing it, something new comes up. And so the ecosystem is changing very fast. And I think probably talking more about what we see and what we get of feedback from consumers and from SMEs and larger organizations, but mainly SMEs, is that we are lacking behind. The consumer is becoming more and more educated by the day. Small businesses are becoming also very savvy. They want to see technology at play, but I don't think we are catching up. SMEs want to have less cost, as was alluded by Brother Khalid. I don't think this is yet streamlined to the extent that they are getting that. Payment methods are not entirely available as are in probably Europe and the US, although the US is not as advanced as some Asian and European countries, but we lag behind. So probably we need to provide an ecosystem that is really conducive of producing what we want to produce, of efficiencies, speed, security, and all that comes with this new technology. I think SMEs today want to have probably one integrated partnership for their payment gateways rather than multiple integrations so that they reduce cost. But it seems that no one entity has got it all now. Back to the payment systems, Apple now indicating or will have to have only their Apple Pay through their iPhone, not others, is an impediment to local advancement, local application, regional applications that may be needed to provide clients with plethora of sources to do their payments, probably that befits their environment, and probably that gives them a little bit more calm when it comes to their security concerns. At the local level, I would say, and probably Brother Abdul Wahid can comment on that, we have not yet opened up. The level playing field is not there for everybody to enjoy the humongous database, at least at the Bahrain level, that is held by Benefit, and had it been available for all financial institutions, probably innovation would be better or would enhance. This is not to say that Benefit has not come up with fantastic work so far, and I commend them for the fantastic work that they are doing. But if this would open up to all financial institutions to test their own ideas through this humongous database that Benefit has today, that comes basically from the accumulation of financial institutions that we have in Bahrain, and they benefit from that. If all the banks were to have the same access, probably innovation will be at a higher level today, because one entity would have only so much capacity to do a good job, and they are doing a good job. But if it were to open to everybody, probably we'll see more innovative products. Having said this, this will have be considered only if security aspects are taken care of and data protection are well guarded. But probably I've moved away from the question, but these are the different channels of payment, innovations, SME needs that probably we need to tackle. At the heart of it is the 5G infrastructure, the availability of telecom with secure networking, corridors that may not be disrupted easily, and so on and so forth. That's the way that our economy can enhance, consumers can be happy, and probably small and medium businesses can benefit a lot and compete.
Thank you very much, Abdulhakeem. Very enlightening answer. And I do share with you the advancement that was made by Benefit. It has been felt by every person in Bahrain. All the citizens of Bahrain have seen the impact of what Benefit have done, and this makes me move to Mr. Abdul Wahid to ask him the next question. Abdul Wahid, as the leading mobile wallet in Bahrain, what structures and strategies have you put in place to facilitate the development of innovative offerings addressing the unique needs of the startups and small businesses market? How changing consumer needs is giving way to new payment methods?
Okay. I'll just go. So I'll move on just to answer Batara's questions. As his questions relate to our mobile wallet in Bahrain, which he referred. I thank him that we are leading in Bahrain from that perspective. Benefit is responsible, for the payment and transfer infrastructure in Bahrain, and is obliged to continuously offer innovative payment solutions to the market. In fact, our strategy focus on two main pillars: Benefit Plus, and Benefit Data. Benefit Plus, we have 5 lifestyle segments, which include the marketplace, mobility, food, shopping, and finance. And the Benefit Data, which is also includes the services, which is the standard, premium, and full service bundles. And all these, the 2 pillars, beside the other segments, they also focus on innovative offering services to the startup and all SMEs. So when we talk about the startups and small businesses market, Benefit has offered 2 innovative payments through Benefit Pay ecosystem, which is through the QR and through Power Plus, and even via mobile, which is Tap and Go, which was introduced lately. And all these we managed and we tried to make it as much as possible in coordination with the central bank. And thanks to Mr. Khalid Al Hamad, he's always with us. We work in parallel with them, to make these services effective and and in some cases they are almost free. So currently now we have more than 4,500 merchants. They are on board, and big number of these merchants are untapped merchants, and they're using Fawry Plus, as a mean of digital payments. With more than almost 6 million transactions as an average per month. That's related to the Benefit Plus. Whenever that we are focusing in order to serve the startup and SMEs. When it comes to the Benefit Data, we have enhanced the CRB to support the online financing to SME based on APIs, published to all banks. And now, in fact, we are working on something called SME rating as part of the SME 360 project, as well as SME marketplace. For speeding up the best financing offerings. That's where the SMEs they rate themselves in order to make it easy for them whenever they get the credit facilities, and as well as will be good for the credit providers, where they can base their judgment on proper facts and figures. So it will work for both. If I may, I just go back to Mr. Hakeem about the other banks with Benefit. It's regardless whether you're a shareholder or not, Benefit is sitting there with all the banks. They are members, regardless, and all the services that we have, it's offered equally. To not only to the banks, even to the non-banks, to the ministries, to the corporate, to the normal companies. So, and also we have a continuous communication with the with the banks. This is just to answer the first part of the question for Mr. Buttar. The second part, and how changing consumer needs is giving away to new payment methods. So, I mean, COVID-19 is an example, of changing consumer needs. By default now, they are moving to online payments, and everybody noticed that. And His Excellency, the Governor, His Excellency, the Minister of Transport and Communication, he mentioned that. So there is an impact. There is an impact of offering the contactless payment, the Fawry Plus payment. So there is a big shift in the mindset of the consumer and merchant, to go to digital. And I think such will continue and open doors for more innovative payment methods, especially with the recent framework introduction by the central bank on the open banking regulation. So that's on the nutshell, on a summary, and I hope I managed to answer your questions, Buttar.
I regret I didn't hear the first part, maybe the first minute of your answer. I don't know whether you were talking about the poor performance of Manchester United or you are addressing my question, but I heard the latter part of your answer, and thank you very much. Let me move, in the interest of time, to Mr. Chandrasekhar, the CEO of Arab Financial Services. Welcome, Chandra. What is the prerequisite today for SME to grow in your view?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me on the panel. As you asked, what is the prerequisite for SMEs? I think one of the things which SMEs are struggling with, and more the small segment, is timely access to credit. And especially in the days of the pandemic, there have been some ups in the business cycle. And some of the businesses which are in the small sector find it extremely challenging the suppliers credit, obviously, and also they need to wait for the businesses to re-emerge after the pandemic. So one of the things which is going to change, and I think it changed as part of the pandemic, is the more digitization comes into the SMEs cash cycle and the payment cycle, the more accurate the data would be for banks and other financial institutions to lend to them. So imagine you're a small enterprise which was doing a lot of cash deals, which is unverifiable, or banks may not consider that as an easy data to lend against. What you do is you start accepting wallets, Benefit Pay, B Wallet, all are examples of wallets, and the entire transaction now has a natural digital flow which can be traced, verified, and is accurate. So when you get this data in a box, it's very easy to analyze for a bank. And also, I think with the advent of open banking, we can channelize all the flows of the SME. If they have 6 bank statements, you aggregate everything, you match it with the digital payments, you arrive at an industry score, and banks can come in and start lending. The issue which banks face is verification of this data takes a long time, and also the risk appetite of the banks. So the second part of the journey, which I think is also coming very fast, and it's already in Bahrain, is the government working with banks and other institutions to provide guaranteed lines to lend against. And then it becomes a much easier journey from a risk perspective for a bank to lend to a small enterprise. So I think if the SMEs were to adopt, and mostly the small sector, to accept the digital forms of payment faster, they build a reliable record of data, banks come in, analyze it, and then they have the government to back them up through the guarantees, and working with the central bank, which has done a superb job, we can now arrive at a applicable credit. Now, the second thing which SMEs really need to watch out for is the over expansion versus demand. I think the forecasting of the demand is something which, again, fintech companies, paytech companies can help. We can analyze 1 year's data to tell them, how are the highs and lows of the business. So you keep your capacity to produce the goods at a high only when the demand is there. So a lot of SMEs have lost a lot of money and then overexpanded, and they have not taken into account the lows and highs of the cycle, which is where I think things like data analytics are here. They will be at a much bigger pace. And I think what we encourage is that every small enterprise cannot afford a data analytics solution. There has to be a central data analytics bureau or companies which can set it up, where SMEs just tap in, send the data across, and get an analysis of how they can plan their working capital needs or access to loans. And the ecosystem, I think my friends mentioned before me, is the ecosystem will develop along data analytics, it will develop along the digitization. And I think in a couple of years, we would see some of these problems of what banks face and financial institutions face from a risk side will definitely come down. And the supply chain cycle will be entirely digital. We can foresee that coming. As the pandemic showed, people moved very fast into digital payments from a consumer side, and automatically now you have a rich source of data against which is verified and it is accurate, and so banks can lend against. So we see the prerequisites for SMEs moving into it. Definitely more digital payments, digital transformation, digital systems, but some help in the data analysis from a central bureau or fintech companies which can come in, and then they are ready to present the data in a quick form. The last thing, quick decisions are critical to help the SMEs to grow, and I think that's where data decisioning, credit scoring, etc. would help. So I hope I answered your question.
I think you have touched base on many important issues for the SMEs. I do agree with you that overexpansion and not being focused maybe sometimes are problems for SME, but thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Let me move now to Mr. Ahmed Seyadi, the CEO of Cremax. Ahmed, how contactless payments are driving digital payment services in time of COVID-19?
Thank you, Batarq. Thank you for having me in this session. In fact, I don't know whether I should start with how COVID impacted adaptation to digital payment solutions or the other way around. In fact, for example, Bahrain had a clear plan to move toward cashless and digital alternative innovative payment solutions. However, with the pandemic starting, we have witnessed expedited shift from both service providers as well as end consumers. We've all have seen the strong collaboration between banks and benefit and orchestrated by central bank, where they reacted very fast and mandated few things to expedite adaptation to contactless. For example, they increased the cap of contactless NFC payment on point of sale from 20 or 25 to 50 BD, as well as mandating or bringing earlier the full enablement of NFC contactless payments in Bahrain. And lately we have seen the tokenization and the introduction of benefit tokenization methodology. All of this have led to faster adaptation with facing the new norm, which is like imposed on us by the pandemic. And we have also seen the service providers where they have realized that they cannot avoid e-commerce any longer, and they have to introduce alternative means of making business. And this is where we have seen a tremendous growth in e-commerce and online trading during the pandemic, and I believe this will continue as well. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you very much. I do share with you your views. I think the pandemics have expedited the process for us. So thank you very much, Ahmed. Let me move back to Mr. Khalid Hamad. Mohammed, how do you evaluate consumer behavior during COVID-19 pandemic? Do you agree that banks may be subject to new regulations and responsibilities coming out of the crisis, particularly in business continuity plans, pandemic planning, and cyber resiliency?
Thank you, Batarq. The consumers are fascinated by the digital service development in terms of speed and also lower cost. However, there is a negative side to the equation, We have noticed an increase in financial fraud due to negligence by consumers of the need to protect their personal account details, leading them to be defrauded. The Ministry of Interior, CBB, banks, and the benefit company, as well as payment service providers, have bombarded the public with warning and alert messages, but still we saw people falling into the fraudsters' trap. But hopefully with the recent anti-fraud measures introduced by CBB, such phenomena is expected to decrease substantially. On the second part of your question, the answer is yes. We will see more regulations. Some would be unconventional. We foresee the need for requirements on environmental and social risk, cyber security measures, and real-time monitoring and surveillance of movement in customers' accounts. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Mohammed. You have fully addressed my question. Thank you very much. Let me move again now to Mr. Khayyat. Mohammed, what is stopping traditional banks from helping this growing market segment, SMEs, to develop financial maturity and capability in your views?
Let me see if I understand your question well, but let me again. I think we need to address the needs of SMEs through new ways that would help them reduce costs. Banks today, I think technology is out there and they are almost forced to adapt technology, because if they don't, or new technologies, because if they don't, they are going to be out of business, or they will see a huge shrink in their bottom lines and top line. And in order to bring traditional banking into the game, we have to really adapt these new technologies and probably be ahead of the game. I.e., if we were to be followers every time there is something new, we will still be traditional in a way. Or not to be traditional, we have to really come up with things ahead of others, or probably alongside others, not much later. And one of the things that may be pertinent in this discussion is that how can we provide services to our SME sector in a way that would be appreciated above and beyond what's going on. And one of the things that we face up with in the bank is that when we are to provide credit in a fully digitized way, we are faced with things that needs to be coordinated with government agencies, and there has to be a focal point where all government agencies can talk through that focal point or contact point. And let me give you an example. If you were to do a credit to a small business, or even to a consumer or mortgage, for example, a small mortgage credit.
Yeah.
Today, you cannot completely do the process digitally because there are still government entities that are not linked, or probably need to have a common contact government relationship that brings them all together and provide banks' needs. For example, attaching to the records of GOSI, the pension of Bahrain, so that you verify employment, the salaries, and so on and so forth. You link with the commercial registration with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce to ensure that there are valid CRs, valid articles filed, and all of that independently. you move to property registration. And if you have link there, you can mortgage and do check whether there are other things that could impede the process, court cases, if the mortgage is already under court order to be held again, and so on and so forth. If we were to have all these links, probably some banks, maybe not all banks, can digitize the entire process, which would save lots of money to small and medium businesses and even to the consumers. They can use their time much more efficiently. You will open even this market to the tiny segment, not tiny to the extent that banks can deal with, but tiny that the banks can deal with, especially people who stay at home today, can't leave their homes because of other things that they have to attend for, but they can do work from home. And if they were to be provided with facilities and banking services whilst at home, not simple account opening and withdrawal and payment, but also doing credit digitally whilst they are at home, do work whilst at home, having the entire ecosystem favorable to their execution of their plans and business, we would really become alongside others or be ahead of others, talking about whether traditional banks can, move into this era with vigor, with innovation, and so on. That has to be now judged by the consumers, the SMEs, and other people who deal with the bank. So I think we need to really move the ecosystem in a direction that would be much more efficient to SMEs and other consumers, so that the market becomes much more competitive and efficient. I hope that answers your question.
It fully addressed the question. Thank you very much, brother Abdulhakeem. Let me move to Abdulwahid. Abdulwahid, with global tech titans such as Google, Amazon, Alibaba, and Facebook will they provide alternative platforms for cross-border payments and help small businesses to grow in international markets, in your view?
Thank you, Tariq. Before, just if you allow me, just for a couple of minutes before moving to your question, just to comment on what Mr. Hakeem Al-Khayyat addressed about the SMEs. I mentioned earlier that we are working on something called SME 360 project in collaboration between us and the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, where we're trying that to have a proper data available where banks can make a better and credit and a digital process. So the SME 360 is there, and what we are planning to have that to be in the middle and around it will be KYC, the credit bureau, financial data, the collateral registry, and that should help the banks, the credit providers, to have a better judgment and a better decision making. What we are aiming, in fact, to have an e-market, an SME e-market. That's what we are aiming. Just this is for your information, and we are planning to have it by quarter two, inshallah, 2021. Going back to your question, Batara, and a really global technology like Google, Amazon, of course, I mean, they are already, they have introduced their initiative with regard to the digital marketplace and digital payment. Became very popular and cost effective. Google introduced Google Pay, Alibaba introduced Alipay, Facebook linked with ePay and PayPal. So, Facebook was introducing the cryptocurrency for cheaper across border payment and transfer. So the bottom line, definitely those digital marketplaces are offering SMEs the startup cheaper channel and bigger market size for selling their product. And we have seen that even in Bahrain, we have maybe many of us are aware that there are a number of merchants already, they are selling their products through Amazon. So if it is cheaper, wider, the growing market, then definitely will be an ideal channel for the small and startup merchants. I believe that SMEs will be positively impacted since their offers reach under such giant networks. Huge. But I think they need to have a sizable governance and policies, to protect the whole model from being breached.
مشكور عبد الواحد. Thank you very much. Thank you, Abdul Wahid. Moving to Mr. Chandrasekhar. Mr. Chandra, how, in your view, you think e-commerce can help the SME revolutions?
Yeah, I think one of the things with the pandemic, obviously a lot of businesses wished they had set up their e-commerce sites well
I
in
can't hear
advance
him well.
to cater to the consumer.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I can hear you
Can you
well
hear
now.
me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Can
One
you
of the
repeat,
things
please?
I said most of the SMEs wanted to or wanted to have their e-commerce site set up sometime back. But obviously, again, there is a gap in the market where most of them do not know, one, how to set up the site, and the second one is obviously the payment gateway part, which is linked to that. So one of the opportunities we see coming again is one for the very small enterprises, an e-commerce marketplace, which will make the costs much lower for them, and they don't need to set up their individual e-commerce sites and link to the central payment gateway. So that, I think, is part of what we see in the future. The second, I think, is access to a much bigger global marketplace for all players if they were in the e-commerce business. So imagine businesses in Bahrain can tap the whole world if they're in the e-commerce. They're not restricted again only to Bahrain. And one of the things which last week I'm sure people saw, the zoom in sales on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, etc., is all highly dependent on the e-commerce side being ready, robust, willing to accept large payments or a large number of transactions going through, and the whole world was shopping that day. So imagine if we had a similar Bahrain marketplace, a Bahrain day, a singles day, etc., etc. You could see a revolution for all SMEs to come in and start the payment and the sales. Could zoom. So what we see again, there's a role again for fintech players, paytechs to come in and create that central marketplace where very very small enterprises can also exhibit their products at good and get customers to buy that, which is the need of the hour. Second, I think having a long-term e-commerce strategy is a very, very critical one for all SMEs to focus on now, because the old model may change, and the pandemic proved that having large, supermarkets or having huge restaurants may not be necessarily the best one in the future because these are capital intensive. What
Yes.
happened is what has happened in the West, where a lot of people have now got used to the easy way to shop, which is the e-commerce way, and everything gets delivered to you. So the second part of the cycle is having a robust logistics mechanism to get the delivery of all these goods to your house in a timely. And again, people fear whether they will get the right product. I think over time in the West it has been proven, in India it has been proven that you get the right product at your house. So I think the logistics side has to grow to match the e-commerce capability. But I think for all SMEs, as you rightly said, the e-commerce revolution is here to stay. Bahrain probably is in the initial stages yet, but in the next 2 years, again, we see e-commerce zooming, and the entire industry has to change its model to cater for the e-commerce demand and also cater for the supply and the logistics delivery at the end of the chain, which is the customer, and provide all this in a timely, accurate, and gives the customer confidence. So there's a big role for fintechs, big role for paytechs, big role for delivery suppliers. But this is what has happened in the West. It has happened across the Asia. We see that coming to the Middle East already, if not in here, but it will grow in a very, very rapid manner in the next 2-3 years.
Well said. Thank
I
you
hope
very
that
much.
answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much and well said. Mr. Ahmed Seyadi, let me move to you now. Do you think mobile wallets are about to make contactless cards look outdated?
Definitely, Butaraq, definitely. I think mobile wallets already made plastic looks outdated, especially in the eyes of new generations and tech savvy segment. Although I believe that the plastic will be around for quite some time, but which is like, but more interestingly, I believe mobile wallets themselves will soon be seen as outdated as well. I see mobile wallets as nothing but a transition period or transition phase, I would say, for even more seamless, more frictionless means of payments once we adopt newer technologies which are already there. There are today technologies that would remove the physical mobile from the formula and adapt or use biometric, Internet of Things, and the like of technologies.
I hope these things happen quite fast so that we can catch up with them before we expire. Thank you very much, Ahmed. But things are moving very fast. I thank you all. I think I am done with the questions that are addressed to you specifically. We have left like 15-20 minutes. I'd like to leave the door open for any one of you that would like to comment on anything. If not, I have one question that I will raise, and I will invite anyone to address the question if he likes. My question is, how do you think your organization... Sorry?
That was an echo.
Okay, I'll ask the question, and then I'll leave the floor for you to either answer this question or comment on anything that you like to comment that is relevant to our session. So my question was, how do you think your organization is penetrating the rising gig economy, specifically the payments? So I leave the floor open to any one of you to address this question or to comment on anything that you would like that will benefit the audience and benefit all of us here. We have got like 15 minutes left, so the floor is open to any one of you.
So I can probably...
Any volunteer?
I may...
Yes.
I may...
the size...
Then, yeah.
Go ahead, Abdulwahid. Go ahead.
تفضل
just very quickly. احنا طبعا speaking about our organizations, we, in terms of how to penetrate the rising gig economy, specifically for the payment, we work towards the national strategy and CPP plans and the digital economy of the vision in 2030. So, as His Excellency, the governor always said that, and benefit now running the electronic payment structure. So we have invested a big amount of money to enhance it. And as part payment of innovation and movement, we are now also, we used to be B2B, and now we are moved to B2C business. As you all know, we have launched the Benefit Pay, which became part of their people daily activity. So Benefit Pay is widely used now for payment, fund transfer, and even for the station. And inshallah, more to come. So we have realized the big power of this wallet during the COVID-19 situation. As transaction has been really increased exponentially. So I think we are moving towards that direction, and this is just to share with you our thoughts as far as the benefit is.
نشكر عبد الواحد. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to probably explain something.
Yes.
Part of Arab Financial Services. At AFS, we were the first to introduce the concept of the QR-based payments, which was our B-Wallet product, which is hardly 2 years old, but now it looks, that it has transformed the way consumers reacted to the way of paying by QR at merchants. It was a big technology change, a big shift in consumer payment. People who were originally very happy with paying by cash and by card really took on to paying by their mobile. So we saw that as the first step in creating the mobile payment solution for Bahrain. Secondly, when we entered our acquiring business, merchant acquiring, we brought the first state-of-the-art Android POS terminals to Bahrain, which accept, even at that time, it used to accept Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and we were ready for the big payment companies to come here, like Apple Pay, etc. And our terminals accepted these and accepted contactless payments too. So while we see the future, we are always investing ahead of the future. So when we invested in these terminals a couple of years back, we were ready for the contactless payment acceptance, the rise in contactless. And now if I look back post the pandemic, it really helped the customer to transition easily from cash-based, etc. payments or to contactless and to the wallet. So our POS even accepts the digital wallets directly on its own. So the other things which we see big going forward, which we also invested in, is the remittance solution, where you can remit from your wallet. Of course, as Mr. Khalid Al Hamad said, there is a lot of security and the fraud protection which we need to enhance. But increasingly, remitting money should be as easy as pressing a button. So we led that revolution. And even things like split bills and paying your utility bills. In fact, even today, I think paying bills is another area which I see life changing very fast with new concepts coming across like aggregating bills, etc. So AFS has always led the investment in technology ahead of time. And as you know, we are a regional player too. So whatever solution we start with Bahrain, then we are able to export this to other countries too in MENA. And that has helped. In fact, Bahrain, I would like to thank the central bank, has been the first to approve many of the new concepts like digital onboarding, the digital wallet, the new POS which we brought to Bahrain, and we received excellent support. And I think Bahrain is leading the digital banking revolution in the Gulf, because I see Bahrain ahead with even with its open banking and with the new regulations that are coming. So we are working closely with the regulators, with the government, to bring newer technology solutions to Bahrain and to the entire MENA region.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar. Thank you very much. Anybody would like to say anything before we conclude? All right. Then thank you very much. I really appreciate
just want to
your
say,
participation.
and we are very
Yes.
happy to have AFS and benefit serving the sector very well and providing the support that is needed. So we want this message to be conveyed that we really appreciate their work.
Thank you.
And
This
not
will
to
convey.
be,
Thank you very much,
Thank
Abdulhakeem.
you very much.
not
It's
to
very
be
well conveyed.
misconstrued.
Thank you.
Not to be misconstrued. It's the idea is that the more data is available to larger number, the more the innovation becomes. And so I'm in no way I would say that Benefit is doing a fantastic job. I would say Benefit is doing a fantastic job, but the more players we have, the better. And this is supposed to be free economy and level playing field. People who don't perform well will be out, and people who perform well will be in. And so there has to be, people have to feel the competition. Service providers or businesses, service providers make money as well, so they are a business. So I would say that the more players, the more people are incentivized to do even better, and not at their own time frame, but at the time frame of the market. This is all that I wanted to convey. But you are doing a fantastic job, believe me, and I attest to this.
Thank you, Abdulhakeem. You have managed to
Thank
put a big smile on Abdul Wahid's face and Chandrasekhar's face. Thank you. I think they deserve very much the praise that you have said. And I really thank all of you for taking time and participate with us in this session. I hope this session was beneficial to all our audience today. I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Take care and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mashkouri.
you. Bye-bye.